In this video, I'm going to give you a few tips for lash beginner. Hi, my name is Cosmina. I'm a certified lash artist and also a lash trainer. And in this video, I want to give you a few tips if you're at the beginning and if you just started your lash journey and if you just finished your first training. So don't panic, we all been there, we know the struggle, we know that it's not easy, but the more you practice, the more you're gonna understand. The more you practice, the better you're gonna be. The more you practice, the more comfortable you're gonna get. So before you start anything, number one, which is extremely important, do not compare yourself with nobody else. We all been there, we know the struggle, everybody started from a point one. So do not try to skip number two, the step 3, step 4 and get to 10 because you're not gonna be anywhere and you're not gonna get anywhere. You need to follow the steps. But the most important is practice. Practice as much as you can. I can promise, and this is something that I share with all my in-person students, this is something that I explain them from the bottom of my heart because I know how hard it was for me when I started. So the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. The more you practice, the more comfortable you're gonna get. So I always recommend to practice at least 2-3 times a week. If you can practice every day, that will be even better because you're going to understand your placement, your position, you're going to understand the muscle memories better, you're going to be comfortable in everything. If you practice at least a little bit daily, an hour, 2 hours per day, it will make a huge difference. Now, how to practice? I always recommend to practice on a real client because that's how you're going to see the problems, that's how you're going to face the placement, the isolation, you're going to see how the retention is gonna stay, you're going to understand the correct amount of glue and things like that. But if you don't have any real clients, if you don't have any people to practice on the mannequin, practice on the little cosmetic sponges, practice on your mapping on a little paper. Always try to find ways to practice. There are so many ways, and I have different type of videos on my YouTube channel and also on my Instagram, how you can practice cosmetic sponges, cotton, a piece of paper or a mannequin. But if you have a real client, that will help you even more. Can be your mom, can be your sister, can be any of your relatives. It's so important to practice on a real client because that's how you're going to see different type of eyes, different type of shapes. And also, the most important thing is, like I said, do not compare with no one else's journey. And second, practice as much as you can. And then third, try to understand your placement, direction, position, the amount of glue, the chemistry of the glue and things like that before you jump and create a full sets, and before you jump and create like 2-3 clients per day. Make sure you start in the correct way because that's how you're going to be a great lash artist. I remember when I started, that was 5 years ago, it was my first training. It was very basic. Nobody came to me and explained me, Cosmina, work with the wrist like that, work with your back like that. Try to stay straight when you work because in a year, you're gonna feel your back, you're gonna feel your neck, you're gonna feel your wrist. The wrist is gonna bother you because you put a lot of pressure on your hands, you're gonna put a lot of pressure on your fingers. So things that really matters for me when I start my trainings, when I start the trainings with my students, first day it's all about lash theory, and I usually explain the way you position yourself, the way you do the placement, the way you do the isolation, how to, position correct. When you work, for example, when you work on the left eye, your position should be on the right. When you work on the right, your position should be on the left. You always turn your body based on the eye you're working. So those are the things that are really important in order to be a great lash artist. I know everybody been there, we all been there. We want to make as many clients as you can. You want to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clients per day. But before you go to that, you want to understand that you place and you apply everything correctly. Also, you want to understand, and this is something that I cannot stress enough during the trainings, it's so important to understand the chemistry of the glue, because if you're at the beginning, you may work with a slower glue. There are 2 types of glue, slow and fast. You're gonna work with a slower glue, and that will give you a little bit more time to isolate, to place, to hold, to understand the placement, to understand how the glue works. And also make sure you understand your room correctly, because if your environment, if your temperature, if your humidity is not correct, then the glue is not going to work. The glue is not gonna cure. Also, understanding the curing and the drying process. Curing and drying time, it's not the same. There are 2 different things, completely different. Drying, and I'm gonna explain you a little bit. Drying time is when you apply the extension on top of the natural lash, and then the natural lash and the extensions are going to get dry, right? That could be 2-3 seconds. It depends what type of glue you're using. But the curing time is when the extension wraps around the natural lash and it cures quicker. That was years ago, old school. Takes about 24 hours to fully cure, to fully dry on the natural lash. Now, because we have so many products, amazing products, for example, a super bonder, it will help the natural lash to activate and cure right away. So we don't have to explain our clients that they have to wait at least 24 hours until they get them wet. You don't have to wait 24 hours anymore, because as soon as you apply the product and as soon as the natural lashes are curing and the glue is bonding on the natural lash, then they just go and you can jump into the pool, you can take a shower right away. You don't have to wait the full 24 hours. So that's why it's so important to understand those things. And then clients are gonna come. You're going to work a lot. You're going to have so many clients. But before we jump into full clientele and a full set, we want to understand that the process of the application is done correctly, and then it's done correctly in a way that you understand the glue, you understand the drying, you understand the curing time, why the lashes are not sticking, why the lashes are not curing, and things like that. So those are the most important things that you need to understand before you start. And remember something, the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. The more you practice, the better you're gonna be, and the more you practice, the more comfortable you're gonna get. And one thing that I always explain to my students on the first day, retention is the main thing right here. The best retention comes from a perfect application. But the perfect application comes from a perfect angling and a perfect direction. So remember those things. Perfect retention comes with a perfect angle, perfect placement, and perfect placement comes with a perfect angle. Okay, don't go anywhere, because I'm going to give you a few important styles that you can create right at the beginning. Even if you're advanced lash artist, even if you're right at the beginning, this set is going to be your favorite.